The second part of today's work is using that idea that when you draw squares on the side of each side of a right angled triangle, is that we can take that information and use it to find missing sides. In today's lesson then, again, I kind of pre-drew some squares here. I want you to draw squares off of all three sides of our triangle. And again, if you think back to some of your other math classes, this long side, that's called the hypotenuse. I should maybe try and write so that you guys can read that next time, but that's the hypotenuse. And hypotenuse is always the longest side in a triangle. So when we talk about adding the little squares together with the big squares, this is what we want to do. We want to make sure that we know which one of these is the hypotenuse. And over again, we're going to ask ourselves to recognize the hypotenuse. So let's go back to what, hopefully you drew your squares. And again, we have one square here that is 10 by 10. So this area is 10 squared. So this area is 100. If I go to the next square, this is a 6 by 6 square. So that's 6 squared. So inside this square are 36 squares. So if we kind of go back to what we talked about just on the previous skill sheet, we talked about the idea that the big square is the sum of the two little squares. So this big square area then needs to be 36 squares plus 100 squares. So this big area is 136 squares. And what we want to be able to do then is use our skills from the first page. And what we're saying, and if you have a square that has an area of 136, the way you find the length of the side for that square is you use the square root button. So we have work for finding the area is 136, and again, this is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 10 squared plus 6 squared, or 6 squared plus 10 squared, is 136. And then I want to do the opposite of squaring. So again, that's my second and my pi. I get my little square root symbol. I type in 136, and this tells me my answer is 11.661 and a whole bunch more decimals. I'm just going to say that my answer is 11.7. So the letter C here, the hypotenuse, is going to be 11.7. So when we're working with triangles, we need to know if we're finding the longest side or the biggest square, we do some adding, and then we do square rooting. If we're finding one of the sides of the smaller squares, we can't add, because the big square plus a little square doesn't give you a medium square, or a big square plus a medium square doesn't give you the small square. So let's look at the second example here. And same thing, let's see if we can't squeeze in some squares that we can use to represent the lengths of our sides. Get rid of the ink. And again, I kind of pre-drew my squares. You're going to have to just kind of freehand your squares in here, and that's fine as long as you're fairly accurate. No one's going to say that your square is not a square. Or if it's truly looking like a rectangle because we just ran out of room, that's okay as well. I mean, I don't even. And the last one here. Okay, so we have three squares. We have a 14 by 14 square, we have a 17 by 17 square, and we have an unknown square. But we want to find the area of all these squares. So this one is 17 squared, and we can use your calculator to find that answer. This square is 14 squared, and again, the reason you know that is going to be 14 by 14. This is going to be 17 by 17. Excuse me. If you use your calculators and you go 17 by 17 or 17 squared, this area is 289 squares. That's how many squares are in there. And if you do the 14 by 14 square, the top square, 14 by 14, you have 196 squares. So how big is the little square then? So again, here's where you have to use that mathematical reasoning. We're not going to add these two numbers together this time. We're going to subtract them. The little square is going to be the difference. So it's like when you take 289 squares and you minus 196 squares. 289 minus 186. I have 103. So 103 squares. That's how big the little square is. My little square has to be 103. Because again, the two squares, the small square and the medium square, add up to equal the big square. So they subtract the two to find the area of the little one. Again, mathematically now, x squared is 103. So my x is the square root of 103. So I'm going to do some work here to figure these things out. And I want to know how big is this side. So square root, I got to find my square root button again. I want the square root of 103. And if I look at my numbers, 10.14. So 10.14 tells me I just want to round off to be 10.1. So there's two examples of using area to figure out missing sides in triangles. And I'm going to stop my examples here. I'm going to ask you to take the rest of this class to figure out these four triangles. Find the missing sides. And when you're finished that, there's a bunch of puzzles up here that you could pick and choose from to try and complete, because I don't think all of us have finished these puzzles. Hope you guys had a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.